Hello, today we are going to install Alpine Linux, which is a Linux operating system in a virtual machine using QEMU Virt Manager. Then we are going to install KDE Plasma desktop. So this is the Wikipedia page for Alpine Linux. It says August 2005 initial release. alpinelinux.org uses for package management APK, Alpine Package Keeper, instead of glibc, which is the GNU C library, uses musil. Instead of GNU Core Utilities, uses BusyBox. And for starting services, instead of systemd, uses OpenRC. Okay, so let's go to their web page. We are going to find downloads here. We need to select between standard and extended. We'll go with standard. My hardware computer is AMD 64. Okay, I've already downloaded the ISO. Let's create a virtual machine. So new, local media ISO, forward, browse, Alpine standard, choose volume. Virtual Machine Manager has recognized the operating system as Alpine Linux 3.18, which it is, so the latest version of Alpine Linux. Forward, I'm going to make this machine be 10 gigabytes of RAM and 14 CPU threads. Let's give it enough space. 250 gigabytes for the virtual hard disk. Okay, the computer name, OS name, virtual machine name should be just Alpine Linux. Finish says that it needs to start the virtual network named default. Yes. Let's look at how it configured the virtual machine. So BIOS, I prefer it over UEFI. Newest motherboard. CPUs, make this just one CPU, but 14 cores. Okay, memory 10 gigabytes. The hard disk is of type virt.io. Great, so this is the best performance out of this list. CD-ROM 180 megabytes. So this is the standard ISO, whereas extended contains everything in standard plus some extra packages. Okay. Network interface card, virt.io, which is again the fastest out of the three options. Tablet, this is it. I'm going to go begin installation. Okay. In order to find out how to install the virtual machine and how to install Alpine Linux, we're going to look at the documentation. The documentation being the tab docs on the main page. Okay, takes us to the Alpine user handbook, which is similar to the FreeBSD handbook, but with less pages. So it says that they have an IRC channel, a mailing list. There's a GitLab instance, gitlab.alpinelinux.org. Okay, and then we're going to use the menu, the table of contents. So installation medium, I'm on x86-64, image type I went with standard, extended says contains additional packages. I've downloaded the ISO, the suffix is ISO. Okay. Since it's a virtual machine, I do not need to write it, the ISO, to a USB drive or to a CD-ROM. I managed to boot. I do not want to modify the kernel command line. Installation. Okay, so there's we've booted the Alpine Linux installer ISO. We can log in without a password as the user root, so let's do that. Root, no password. Next, we should use the setup-alpine script. We could go setup alpine -q for quick, which I'm not going to do. Or just follow the entire wizard setup alpine. I do have DHCP. I have a primary network connection that's wired. Yes, so let's go this route. Setup -alpine. Select keyboard layout. There's no possibility of selecting English, so English is default, so pressing enter selects none, which is English US. Enter system host name, let's go with Alpine Linux. Which network interface card? ETH0, DHCP, so I'm just pressing enter. Do you want to do any manual network configuration? No is the default. It received via DHCP a IP address ending in 19. Let's write this thing down. So 19. He wants to change the password for the user root. Yes, let's do that. Which time zone? No, not UTC, question mark. America / question mark for list. There is New York. Let's go with that. Okay, no HTTP proxy. I'm not selecting any available mirror. Similar to Debian, the best mirror is the CDN, which is on position 1 in this case, or similar to Ubuntu. So this is more. I can paginate using the space key on my keyboard to go page down. It wants to... It suggests that I use the first mirror, which is the CDN, which is what I want. Yes. Okay. Set up a user. I want to add a user. Full name, password. Enter SSH key. Do I want open SSH? Yes, I do. Which disk should be used for installing VDA? The default option is none, so not none, but VDA. what should VDA be used for? Sys data crypt LVM or question mark? Let's go with question mark. Says that sys is traditional disk installation / boot partition / file system partition swap partition. This mode may be used for development boxes. So let's go with sys, sys. The last chance to stop, erase the above disks and continue. Yes. Why? Okay, it finished installing and requires that I reboot. So let's go do that. Okay, let's make sure that the CD-ROM, the ISO was removed from the CD-ROM. Yes, it did. And that in boot options, there's just the option to boot to the hard disk, to virtual hard disk. That's correct. Now I can log in using two users, root or administrator. Let's see what should I do next. I do not want to use answer files. Back to the menu. Semi-automatic keyboard layout. So there's setup minus something, minus key map, minus host name. Okay. In here we'll need to intervene because by default just one repository is added to /etc/apk/repositories, which is the main one, and we'll also need community. For that we'll need to what should we do? Let's not use the virtualization software. Let's connect from a terminal using SSH. Okay, so SSH administrator at what was it? 19. Do I want to continue? Yes. Password. Okay. So now, in order to become super user, we can try SU. It requires the password of the user root. Who am I? Okay. So first of all, we'll need to edit this thing. So the editor that's available is, of course, VI. Repositories, this one. And we're going to need to uncomment. So for that, we go insert mode I, delete, escape, colon, right, W, Q, exclamation mark. Okay, let's check. Okay, it did it. Okay, so this is about installing. And now it's working with Alpine. Says I should create a normal user, which I already did. Okay, I can become super user by going su-l root, -l means login shell, and su space minus, which is what I used, is a the same thing as su-l root, because root user is implied if you do not provide any other user. Minus implies minus l. Okay. And it suggests that I install doas. I'm not sure why. Let's see what doas is. Doas is already installed. Man. Okay, there's no man pages in Alpine. Control D to exit the user root. I'm the user administrator. Let's become super user by using doas. So similar to how I would use sudo. If sudo was installed, I would go su do su. That's the way I become a super user in Ubuntu, for instance. So I'm going to do something similar, doas space su. Now it requires the password not of user root, but of the user administrator, which means that the user administrator is in the group wheel, and the group wheel is allowed to use doas. So let's check that out. cat/etc this thing. Ctrl-Shift-V. So says permit persist :wheel, which is exactly what the handbook suggests I do. So this thing is already done for us. The user, my user administrator, is already part of the wheel. Okay, so doas behaves similarly to sudo. You can go doas and then a command that will be run as super user. Okay, now the next thing that we should do is to survive at the command line. For that, we need to know how to install software. Okay, the package manager is called APK, Alpine Package Keeper. We have main and community repositories enabled. What else? We can search, so APK search either by file name, by package name. In order to install packages, we can go APK add to install a package. In order to upgrade, we can go APK upgrade and APK update, similar to what we have in apt. So let's do that. APK update, similar to apt update. Temporary error. Let's run it again. So there was a networking issue, and now I've run it again. Okay, we go APK upgrade to make sure all of the packages are up to date, and they are. Now, using the search functionality, which is APK search, we're going to search for the packages that I want while I'm connected at the terminal. So I want MC. How do we search for MC? MC, this thing, okay? Git is probably going to be named Git, and then emacs-nox. And it's named correctly emacs-nox, all lowercase. So let's install the first packages in order to survive at the command line. APK add. So this is the command line. And then, yeah, indeed, we totally want bash. MC emacs-nox and midnight commander and git. Let's get git. These things. Okay. What else do we want to do? Let's change the shell to bash. So let's change shell --help change shell bash not found. Let's see, wiki alpine change shell. So it suggests that I edit /etc/password manually. apk search change shell. So it's part of shadow probably, yes? Yeah. So apk add shadow. Okay. Change shell like this. So -l and then the new shell, and the bash is in /bin. Okay, so we have installed the package shadow, which allows us to edit /etc/password straight from the command line without using a text editor. So we need to go change shell -s to specify the shell, and then the full path to the shell /bin /bash. Okay, so this changes for the current user, which is the user root. Let's do the same thing for the user administrator. So this command line asks for the password, and now I should reconnect via SSH, Control D. Let's connect again. Okay, let's make sure that bash is running. So that's PS3. So says that the SSH server is running. I'm connecting via SSH. This is my shell bash, and then inside of bash I'm running PS3. So this is a process tree. Okay, so change shell has worked correctly. What's next? I have enough tools to survive at the command line. There's Midnight Commander, MC. What should I do next? Let's get /etc under version control. So doas su, the password cd /etc git init here. Okay. And what do I need to do in order to add everything? Git add all changed files. Stages all changes, stages new files and modifications without deletions. Okay, so git status, git add -a, git status, so a ton of files will be added, and now I need to commit. So git commit -m for message initial commit. Okay, git log initial commit. Looks okay. What's next? So in order to upgrade package, you go apk upgrade. You only need to run apk upgrade. Apk update is run automatically. Okay, we'll be back to this page. So let's open it in a new page. And now back to installing the graphical user interface. Okay, where does it say that? Getting a graphical environment. Let's run this thing from the virtualization software. Virt manager, so let's log on as okay, become super user. Should I run this thing as a super user or not? Okay, so let's run this command line. Setup-xorg-base. So it installs 66 Alpine Linux packages, starts udev. Okay, what's the next thing that we should do? I can install a desktop such as the package Alpine Desktop. This uses lxdm for desktop manager and xfce4 as the desktop environment. I do not want xfce or lxdm, I want the KDE Plasma, so I'm going to install that. So for that I go wiki Alpine Linux KDE. Okay, so there's a page on the wiki of Alpine Linux. Says I should install Alpine Linux. Yes, I did. Create a user account. I did. The user is named administrator. I've enabled the community repository. I want to use xorg, not Wayland. So I've installed the base packages setup-xorg-base. Okay. I do not need a special keyboard layout. Hopefully all of this thing has worked correctly. And now the actual steps to install KDE Plasma. So first of all, who am I? I'm the user root. I can do these things from the terminal such that I have copy paste, Control L. Who am I? I'm the user root. Okay, so let's do copy paste. Select, middle click. So click on the mouse scroll bar button to paste. 417 Alpine Linux packages need to be downloaded and installed. So that's Qt 5, GTK, things, fonts, audio, video, image, codecs, compression, algorithm libraries, audio, and the desktop manager sddm. Great. Says that dbus should start automatically. Says that login should start automatically, the version login. Polkit should start automatically. I should use udev. So polkit and udev are optional. I don't care. I want the KDE Plasma desktop to work as well as possible. I will not install additional applications. I know what applications I use. I use Kate, I use Crusader and console, and that's about it. Using a display manager. Did we start sddm? Not yet. So let's tell it to start sddm, the desktop manager, automatically. Okay, and in order to start it from xinitrc, we need to say exec start plasma -x11. And if I want Wayland, then the command line is this one. Otherwise, I can start everything from sddm. Okay, first of all, let's make sure that everything works correctly. Okay, so let's check that the sddm desktop manager works. Where did I enter? Let's go back. So this was Plasma Wayland, so I want Plasma X11. Okay. So the desktop works, KDE Plasma works. The next thing that I want to do right now is to be able to connect to the graphical user interface without using the virtualization software. So I want to install the RDP server, xrdp, RDP being Microsoft's remote desktop protocol. So let's see how to do that. Let's log out. And I'm going to follow my own tutorial. Okay. Let's go to the instructions for the operating system Alpine Linux. So I've installed emacs-nox mc git bash. I've changed the shell. I've run setup-xorg-base. I've installed KDE Plasma correctly as per the Alpine Linux wiki. I see that sddm works correctly, KDE Plasma works correctly. The next step would be to install xrdp. So there's a wiki page for that. Okay, so let's follow it from the terminal. Let's connect again. Do as su apk add xrdp. So it installed Fuse, xrdp, and this package xorgxrdp, which makes it such that we can connect remotely using the RDP protocol to a xorg server. Okay, then it installed the necessary services, but they are not started when the computer starts, so let's do that. First is named xrdp. The second one is named xrdp-sesman, session manager. Okay, so it says that that's enough if you are using the default XFCE desktop, which I'm not using. I'm using KDE Plasma. Okay, so I did these 3 command lines. Now I'll need to edit the ~xinitrc my .sh file. So copy. I need to not be root user. Control D to exit. Who am I? Okay, pwd. Emacs. Control Shift V. Just one line in here. Control XS, Control X C, and then let's reboot. I need to run this thing with doas. Okay, so it finished starting. Let's now try to connect to the virtual machine using, if needed, SSH, which is this thing. And in another tab, we're going to connect using the RDP client named xfreerdp. So that's xfreerdp. Let's prepare the command line. Actually, no need to do that because we have the command line in here. Paste. And the IP address ends with 19. This is the name of the user. Okay, so that's it. xfreerdp, the name of the user, width and height to be 1080p. Then the pair dynamic minus resolution. If there's not enough room for 1080p, it will shrink to the available space on my current desktop, and then that will shrink the resolution of the, will change the resolution of the virtual machine that's running KDE Plasma. Okay, and this is for additional speed and performance and quality improvements. Do I trust? Yes. Okay. It asks me for the password, knows the username, but does not know the password. And it does not run. Okay. Why not? xinitrc, what's the name of xinitrc? It's xinitrc without an sh and with a dot in front. Ugly. So this is the correct name for the file. Okay. ls-la So it contains the file xinitrc. Okay, let's try to connect now. Okay, and the KDE Plasma desktop is starting. The next step is to terraform KDE Plasma desktop to my liking, and then I can connect to the Xfreerdp using XfreerdP to the virtual machine, and I can start recording just the interior of the XfreerdP window. Okay, so let's do a bit of terraforming here. Settings, mouse too small. Let's make this bigger. Edge, I do not want this feature with this glowing thing. Screen edges. Okay, and this should be just 15. What else do I usually do in here? Fonts. Let's use the Microsoft technologies. So sub-pixel rendering, RGB, hinting full. Okay, let's move the KDE Plasma taskbar from the bottom to the left hand side. Says drag to move, and this is enough for me. I do not want the icon for Emacs here, so let's unpin everything. Okay, I want a console. So the terminal from KDE, which I do not have here. Actually, I don't even have xterm, so I don't have any terminal. So let's connect using SSH and install some things. So apk add xterm just in case something explodes, console and Kate and Crusader. Okay, the names of the packages are the ones that I expected, so lowercase and exactly as I wrote them there. The applications should already be available. So Kate is already added to the favorites, which is what I want. What else? So there's uxterm and xterm. And then there's Crusader and Kate. Okay, let's configure Crusader. It says that 7-zip is not installed, so let's install it. Where are you? Console, let's make console add to favorites. Okay. So doas su apk add p7-zip. Yep. Okay. Let's configure Crusader. Nothing to do here. Layout compact. Nothing to do here. Nothing here. Nothing here. In view, make default icon sizes as small as possible. And that's it. Apply. General tab bar position top. Apply. We don't change anything in colors. In general, we use the better editor, text file editor, which is Kate. Okay, and nothing else to change. Okay, let's now hide useless Chrome, so things that are not content. All toolbars, function keys, status bar, but then show the embedded terminal. Let's restart it. So this thing should be pinned to task manager. Okay, and the tabs are now at the top. So these are the settings that I usually do when I install KDE Plasma. And this is about it. So I've managed to install Alpine Linux, KDE Plasma, sddm, the desktop manager, some additional applications, Kate Crusader console, and then I've installed the RDP server, which is xorgxrdp plus xrdp. And then I needed to add to tilde/ xinitrc this line, exec start plasma -x11. On the host machine that's running Ubuntu 23.04 Linux operating system, I have xfreerdp installed. I'm looking at the xfreerdp command line parameters, and I come up with this command line in order to connect to the virtual machine. The advantage is I do not need to install a web browser in the virtual machine if I want, because I can resize the FreeRDP window any way I want. Then the xrdp server will tell the KDE Plasma desktop to resize, to change the resolution to whatever the interior of this window is, the size of this window. I have copy paste working, so I can go copy and paste this other direction also. Okay, if copy paste works, then I can survive with the virtual machine, and if I can resize the RDP client window, then I can survive if I do not have a web browser inside of the virtual machine. And not having a web browser inside of the virtual machine has at least two advantages. So more performance, because I'm using the web browser on my hardware machine, and then the virtual machine does not need to use as much random access memory. A web browser installed inside of the virtual machine is that some software inside of the virtual machine will require a web browser, such as if you go in help, there's all sorts of URLs that will not work because they will try to open a web browser, and that will fail. It says the file or folder does not exist. All sorts of interesting errors if you have 0 web browsers installed inside of the virtual machine. So let's actually install a web browser inside of the virtual machine. Okay. So I usually use 2 web browsers which are available on inside of the repositories of most Linux distributions. The simpler one is the one from the KDE community. So apk add Falcon. And now if I try to open a URL, where are you? It will find that Falcon web browser is installed. It's associated with the HTTP, HTTPS protocols. Okay, and then the web browser that I use most of the time is Firefox. Let's see if this is available in the packages of Alpine Linux. And it's available. Internet and then Firefox. Where is the downloads? thing. Okay, toolbars never show. Done, and then settings. Always ask where to download. Okay, and I'm not sure why it doesn't have buttons inside of the window title bar. So let's show the, how do we do that? Let's make it show a title bar. Okay, so now we can actually minimize the Firefox window. Okay, so we've installed Bash and we're using Bash instead of the default Alpine Linux ASH. Everything seems to have worked correctly, and I have most of the tools available already, so I think I can use this virtual machine for actual development. So thank you.